Hey, I'm Glenn Tilbrook from Squeeze, and this is the Sweet Song Podcast. When we wrote Trixies, it was like we were really on the outside looking in of the music business and whatever it was at that time. And it wouldn't have really have accepted somebody like us unless we'd been changed or made more commercial in a way that really would have flattened us.
Welcome to the Sweet Song Podcast, where we unwrap your favorite songs and the stories, secrets, and worldviews of the artists who write them. I'm your host, Christy York-Wooten, and this week I'm happy to speak with Glenn Tilbrook from the legendary Squeeze, who brought their 16 studio albums, 48 singles, and decades of clever melodies from across the Atlantic and have never stopped performing. Glenn will tell us how he and Chris Difford made their latest album, Trixies, their tour celebrating nearly 50 years of making music together. Plus, we'll deconstruct their biggest hits, revisit some amazing and hilarious concert memories, and reveal Glenn's sweet song. This is the Sweet Song Podcast. I want to start with a sort of instant hot take. What are the three things you're most grateful for at this very moment?
Relative good health, loving family, and having a musical ear.
That's perfect. That's great. Those are all great things to have. I want to talk about Trixies now, which is the new album with Squeeze, released in March. And yet it's actually material that you started with Chris Difford as teens, right? In England?
Yeah.
Musically, I really wanted to dig into this. I'm a huge Stevie Wonder fan. And from the very first note, I'm like, that was a big influence on this record, as was Paul McCartney and some of the sounds that he was making. So is this album an echo of your dreams and desires at 16? Or how does that feel when it's kind of returning to greet you at your age now?
I mean, you're right. Those two influences are there very strongly. And I think looking back on the songs when we sort of first looked at them again, I wasn't really aware of where they came from. Um, what more can I say, though? The opening track of Trixies, now I can hear it and say, of course, I was obsessed with Stevie Wonder. So that is me being obsessed with Stevie Wonder. And it sounds like him, but it doesn't sound like him. And I sort of, I like how identifiable. I mean, every single song on Trixies, I can go back and say, that primarily is that, you know. And I don't think my songs are like that nowadays and haven't been for quite a while. But I think it really reflects on how, as a 16-year-old, I'm just full of the most recent stuff I was listening to. And, that let's say that encapsulates that 3 years or so of what's happened. But all the influences musically for me are drawn from 71 to 74.
Is there a Stevie Wonder moment, though, for you at that time in your life? Is there a song that you remember sticking out to you or being one of your favorites at the time?
I had no musical education, let's put it that way. And so one of the things I would do is teach myself other people's songs. And I taught myself You and I. And my ear is very good. It was very good then. So I could figure out what the chords were, like trial and error. And it's such an amazing song. And that taught me so much about chords and where they went. That was like, it was a pivotal moment for me because a lot of that stuff has remained with me throughout my life. But just learning the song um, taught me that that's possible from my own perspective. And I think what more can I say? It's sort of reasonably complex thanks to Stevie Wonder, but we had some things going on that we could put in there and make it ours as well.
Of course, I try not to read press releases too much before I listen to new music from an artist. I knew that there was material from when you were young, but I was like, oh, how fantastic that Squeeze is coming out with a concept album now of a nightclub and all these sounds. And then I'm like, oh yeah, it's from those years.
Yeah, exactly that.
Do you have a standout track on Trixies that you're very pleased with?
It's actually really hard to. I mean, I will pick out a song. I'll pick out the place we call Mars because that is such a smart song for us to write. It's plainly Bowie influenced. Yet again, I mean, I thought when I heard it, when I played the song again. I thought, "Oh, it's Life on Mars, surely." And then I heard Life on Mars, and it's actually nothing like Life on Mars, but it's got the DNA of Life on Mars inside it. I think that's what it is.
From teenagers' minds. That's what's so
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah, yeah, exactly that. So, I'm really proud of that song. It's complex without it's not a show off complex. It just is, and that's where it went at that point.
Right, I wanna transition, to our hit song deep dive. So, I think it was such a genius move, the record company to release, singles 45s and under came out in 1982, but no one in America really bothered to realize that all those hadn't been, like, in the top 5 on the Billboard. So, you've got people passing around albums and then later cassettes, and in my case, in college, we had just made it to CDs, and this was, like, the seminal, like, American college album that was laying around in dorms, almost like it came with the dorm room, you know? So, I think that has a lot to do with where the band is today because people knew those songs from their real life. Obviously, Tempted is your biggest hit in America, but I want to talk about Up the Junction and let us know about the construction of that song.
I remember getting the lyric, and we'd written some long form songs before, and um, so I knew what that was. But when I read the lyric for the first time, I thought, "Oh my god, that's a complete story in whatever it is, 7 verses." And my job is to just not get in the way of that. And I thought when I wrote it, I thought it was like a it was like a Bob Dylan song, in my mind. And and indeed, when we recorded it, it was the same backing track and the same vocal, but it didn't have the tune at the end and the keyboard overdubs. It was just playing the chords, and we liked it like that. And the head of our record company said, "You need something else there. It's great, but why don't you do some like overdubs?" And so I went back into the studio and did that. And he was right. The tune at the beginning and the end is such a part of the song. But but that's the sort of help that's really great that you get early on in the career because we wouldn't have done it. Wouldn't have done it without that. I think I'm just so over the moon with it.
Tell me about some of those early relationships in the band. I mean, there was Jules Holland, there was Elvis Costello, and all of those folks are still in your orbit, right?
I met Jules. I think a year before I met Chris, and Jules was the first other person I met who could play, and me likewise for him. So we immediately started playing together and hanging out, and it was great that we had a very strong connection. And we started to write, but our writing never really came to that much, actually. Whatever it was, that wasn't what we did. We could play songs together, and we could get gigs. We used to get gigs in pubs together, but it didn't become a writing thing. And I met Chris separately, and that became the genesis of Squeeze. Some of the other people around, in the late '70s, you'd run into people, and we ran into Nick Lowe, and Nick Lowe did some work with us, and we met Elvis. And I knew Steve Naive from when I was Chris, and I knew Steve Naive when we were at school before he joined the Attractions, and he was great. He was just the same as he is now, but 15. Um, So, it was a little hotbed of music, and it was a great scene to be part of because, I guess like when we wrote Trixies, it was like we were really on the outside looking in of the music business and whatever it was at that time, and it wouldn't have really have accepted somebody like us unless we'd been changed or made more commercial in a way that really would have flattened us. And I think the thing that we had in common with those people that we met, like Elvis Costello and Nick Lowe and all that, is that we had a chance to be more of ourselves and less polished. And that led to a different sort of energy, a sort of unprofessional energy, but it was something that was quite real.
One of the things, music tends to breed friendships and relationships, even for people who aren't musicians. I know that as a listener, all my best friends, we met through music. Somehow it's just that gel and that glue. But what does, especially releasing Trixies, what does that say to you about the power of friendship or even, even if it's a business musical partnership? Did you think about that when you all put that together, that it would be a statement of 50 years of sort of, a friendship, working relationship?
We did, yeah, I mean, we thought about it a lot, and really that was the reason why it felt okay to do it, is because we got to that point. Um, there was a time when I thought that Trixies was lost. We'd lost the opportunity to do it, and we couldn't really, you know, the story is such an integral part of why we can do it. I think, and it also contains a reason why we wouldn't have wanted to do it before. It's because it's a statement of us at that time, and we've changed and mutated through such a lot of different versions of what we are, but we're still here. And it's great that we are where we are now because we're really strong as a band and we're really exciting as a band. And we've got that energy back that we had when we first came out. And I don't think we've had that for a long while until the last few years.
I wasn't around for some of those earliest shows here in Atlanta, but I've seen you over the years here in New York and some other places, and energy is what I would use to describe Squeeze as a live band regardless. You may have thought that you weren't as energetic, but I think most of us go for that prime reason, and especially one unique show was I think you all were opening for Hall& and Oates, and it was a lot of people's first show back after the pandemic. Um
Right.
and I just remember the overwhelming response, probably to folks who maybe didn't even know your whole catalog, but just were so happy to be there with that energy at that gig. So thank you for that.
Oh, well, I'm so happy that we did that tour. It was a great tour for us, and it was a great tour to be on. And Dal and John and the band were all so absolutely awe-inspiring. And in fact, quite a lot of the stuff that they did was influenced by some of the stuff that we came to be influenced by a bit later after Trixies. Some of the Philadelphia music and that really made a big impact on us. And it was lovely to see the just how great they were and great the audiences were for us too.
Okay, it's now time for our signature segment of the show, which is the sweet song reveal. So, Glenn Tilbrook, what is the one song from Squeeze's catalog that's closest to your heart and your favorite story about it? Don't say that
No.
they're all your children and you can't choose. I know there's one you can choose.
Well, I'm going to say right at the moment, it's actually "You Get the Feeling." It is my favorite song, and here's why. I remember writing it. I was living in a bedsit, one room apartment with my girlfriend at the time. She was trying to get to sleep, and I was trying to sing into the cassette recorder as quietly as I could the song "You Get the Feeling." And I still know her, and we were talking about that song. He said, "Yeah, I remember I couldn't get to sleep when you were playing it. It was really annoying." And uh, it's a wonderful specific memory attached to writing that song at 1 in the morning or whatever it is. And the song uh, has changed. It was more of a blues song when we wrote it, and just changing the way it was played turned it into something different. But the song was, I love that song, and it's not got old for me.
That's a great choice. I wrote down I had to ask you about Some Fantastic Place,
Yeah.
which is one of my favorite Squeeze songs as well. I call it the sunniest sad song ever. But there's just something magic about that song. I think I remember the first time I heard it live, you all were on tour. I think you had Paul Carrick with you, and you
Yeah.
played in Atlanta at a packed, small theater, and when that album was out, how uplifting. I still remember, just that vibe carried on. Sounds fantastic live, so hopefully we'll hear it. I don't know.
Well, that's a good idea, actually. It's not often that songs actually just literally pour out of you. And I know for Chris, it was the same for him. When I got that lyric, I just sat down and that tune was there. I didn't even need to think about it. And and that's the magic of all the other ones that don't come out like that. The song being about Maxine, who was taken far too early in her life. The commitment and the love of it, and the musicality and the joy of it, all came from another place.
Definitely, and that's the time of joy I think people are tapping into now, whether it's musical moments, whether it's the World Cup, which was also here in Atlanta, or, Jimothy the raccoon, or a million other things on the internet that are
Yeah.
giving us those, like, 1-minute burst of micro joy, but songs are for sure are like that. Uh, I mean, you've had so many epic gigs here, really, I'm not just saying that as a fan, but very beloved by the audience here, and I wanna ask you about your RV and leading down people down the street after the show. I think it was 2007, and
Yeah,
you had your documentary out about that tour. Tell me a little
yeah.
about any Atlanta memories you have, especially that one.
At that point, my career was at both a low ebb and a fantastically high ebb because I was really enjoying, not being a small artist, but having the ability to go out and play and not be overly concerned about career and just thinking about entertaining people. And being that small had a weird sort of freedom attached to it. And I really took to utilizing whatever I could do to make the shows feel different. And one of those things that happened at that show was taking everyone outside and then someone saying, "Look, my apartment's just up the road. Should we go there?" And I was saying, "Yeah, sure, let's go there." So we all went. You were there.
I wasn't there, and
You were there.
I can't
Okay.
remember the reason, but I think the jealousy has not I mean, it hasn't gone down at all, like, I had a smaller child then, but I think I was out of
Yeah.
town. There was some good reason I wasn't there,
Yeah. Yeah.
but no, epic.
Okay, so people are filling the apartment, and then the people that couldn't get in the apartment, it was ground floor, so they were outside the window, sort of looking in. And it was just fantastic because you can create that moment for yourself and for other people. It'll never happen again, that set of circumstances. And I remember that as well as I remember playing the Fox Theatre and meeting Smokey Robinson.
Wow,
That's right
tell
up
me that
there for me.
story. I wanna hear that story.
Okay, so we played at the Fox Theatre. I'm trying to remember where it was, like 86 or 87. Um, and after the show, but Smokey Robinson was there. He came up to me and said, "I really enjoyed your show. I love the songs." Can I can I have I asked him if I could have his autograph. He said, "Sure, yeah."
What more could you want from Smokey Robinson? That's fantastic.
What more could you want? What a sweet man. And I don't know if you knew how much that meant to me, but it meant such a massive amount. That he would bother to do that. How sweet.
I love that. What song by any artist do you wish you'd written?
I've become obsessed in the last week. There's been a cover version of John Lennon's song "Real Love," which to me I didn't like. It sounded more like ELO than the Beatles, and I sort of wish that they hadn't done it or something. And then I heard someone do an acoustic version of it, and it really brought out what a beautiful song it is. And the production had made me miss that. That hadn't made me miss it. Maybe I didn't go deep enough or whatever with the Beatles' subsequent version. But it's such a beautiful song, and the changes are gorgeous. And I've sort of, in the last week, I've become obsessed with it.
You rediscovered it. I love that. Um,
Yeah.
what's your biggest hope or fear about the future of music?
I'm all for technology. I'm all for the progress of technology. But I think when it's tied up with commerce it can lead to some things that aren't so great. And I think that, I know that Chris Difford's had fun in putting songs into AI and seeing what they sound like. And I remember him doing this and playing this to me, a song that he'd written, and he was so happy. And I felt like I was in a moment that I didn't want to be in because I didn't like it. It was perfect. It was absolutely perfect, but it was weird.
Perfection, I think, is the enemy of art, right? Maybe
It-
in some sense?
uh,
I don't think I made that up. Somebody said it at some point, but yeah.
no, but it's right. It's right.
All right, final question. When people think of Squeeze, what do you hope they remember?
I hope that they remember the rather attractive lead singer, Chris Difford, and me, of course. And the rest of the band, we stood around, we gave it our all most of the time, bit in the middle where we didn't, and then came back all guns blazing for our autumn years.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Glenn, for joining me on the Sweet Song podcast. And
Thank you, Christy. It's been lovely. Thank you so much.
thank you. And I really, this bill that you're on with Haircut 100 and Adamant, right? Yeah, I think the Fox is going to have to maybe bolster their buttresses or whatever that holds up the balcony. So we'll see what happens. All right. Well, thanks so much, Glenn. Best of luck. See you in a few weeks.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
The Sweet Song Podcast is hosted by Christy York Wooten, that's me, and produced by Sustenance Group, LLC. Special thanks to this week's guest. Be sure to check out full episodes wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe and like on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. Visit Pure Pop for Now, people, for more information, and we'll see you next week.